Okay, I have 6:30 Apple time. So tonight is July 13th, 2021. Welcome everyone to the Wenham Select Board meeting for this evening. As we've been doing for a while, we are on Zoom. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:30, and the first order of business, lest I forget, very important, before even public input, I would like to introduce our new town administrator who started this past last week. Ryan Ferrara is here with us tonight, and we're very happy to have him on board, and glad hopefully he's surviving. I know he's been meeting with a lot of people and keeping himself really busy, but welcome, Ryan. I don't know if you'd like to say hi, but you'll get a chance. You're muted.
Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. No, and my thanks to the board and staff for making me feel so welcome. So I may be a new face on these recordings, but I hope to be here for a long time. And again, very much appreciate the efforts among staff and the board to make me feel so welcome so far. So thank you.
Great. You're welcome. We hope to continue to make you feel welcome most of the time anyway. Anyway, so thank you and welcome. Moving on to our meeting, the first thing that we typically have at this point in the agenda is public input. So if there is anyone who is in the audience or at home who would like to share anything, ask a question, make a comment, we ask that you put your name in the chat, and we'll give it a few seconds in case you're like me, slow in typing in your name. And if we don't see anyone in a second or two, we'll move on. Jackie, we see anyone?
No one in the chat at this time.
Okay. We go through waves of having folks chatting, no folks. So after public input, it's time for our announcements, and I think we mentioned to Ryan that we were going to ask him to make the announcements. So I will turn it over to him to read our announcements for this evening. Ryan.
Okay, Catherine. So first of all, board and committee openings. So you could, for those in the public who are watching or interested, to please through our a Google request form found online at wenamma.gov/volunteer, or by sending an email to the attention of the select board at admin@wenamma.gov to express your interest. The boards and committees that are currently open are the Council on Aging. There's one opening there for a 3-year term. Iron Rail Commission, 2 openings there. The WISH Committee and the Hamilton Wenham Community Access and Media Committee. There's 1 opening there. So those are the committees that are open at this time. Again, if you have any interest, we'd love to hear from you. Next announcement is the Wenham Museum Fair taking place on Saturday, July 31st from 9 to 3 p.m. Taking place at the Wenham Museum, 132 Main Street. So please join the Wenham Museum for their annual summer fair, which will include food, entertainment, and over 60 vendors taking place. So I believe we have an item later on our agenda today to add to have them use the front of Town Hall, I believe, as well, related to that. So tire collection event is taking place Saturday, August 7th from 9 to 1 p.m. at the DPW garage. This is only for passenger vehicle tires without rims. So make sure that when you do drop them off, that just the tires alone. So this is something that we do in partnership with the New England Mass Mosquito Control, and reason for that is water tends to accumulate in old tires and becomes a collection point for mosquitoes. So you can understand why they would want to get rid of that. And if you have any old tires kicking around, which sometimes you do, we would encourage you again to drop those tires off on Saturday, August 7th from 9 to 1 p.m. at the DPW garage. Summer internships are still available here at Town Hall. General government and land use internships specifically for summer 2021 and fall 2021. So if you're interested, we encourage you to go to the town website at www.wenhamma.gov/jobs for position descriptions and how to apply. So this is one of our promotional items. This is something that Jackie's been heavily involved with, our Citizens Leadership Academy for 2021. So this is a great opportunity for people in town to learn more about how municipal government works. One of the things that we find on a regular basis is that people tend to view what happens here in Town Hall as a black box. And what we want to do is help demystify some of that and encourage people to participate and learn more about how town government functions, because ultimately this is citizen-based and we need your participation to make this happen. So registration is now open for the fall of 2021 Citizens Leadership Academy. Again, if you go to the town website at www.wenhamma.gov for more information, or reach out separately to Jackie Brezhnan at jbrezhnan@wenhamma.gov. So we hope to have a great number of attendees for this. It's a great program and highly encourage folks to consider participating.
Great, thank you for that. So we have our reports next. Our town administrator report is first. Ryan probably has a few things to say, but it's early days, but I'll turn it over to you, Ryan, for whatever you want to share with us.
Thank you, Catherine. So again, to reiterate, as I said earlier, my thanks to everyone for your warm welcome here. Staff in particular have been great to deal with, and I'm really optimistic about and been positive about my intake process so far. So my thanks to them and to the board members. Some of the things that I've been doing already is meeting with staff. Had the opportunity to meet last week with Tom Younger, of course, the interim TA. Tom was very helpful in transitioning and letting me know about what sort of things are high on the board's list of things that they wanted to get done. So Tom's going to, I believe, come back again next week when I have a previously planned vacation. So he will be here sort of working through some other items. So you have not seen the last of Tom just yet. But also had the opportunity to meet with the Hamilton Town manager, Hamilton Wenham School Committee, all of the select boards members here in town separately. Been able to conduct a staff meeting, which was great to see everybody together at one time. And of course, post-COVID, having everybody together in the same room is that in and of itself is its own reward. So that was really wonderful. Of course, with the finance, also met with the finance director, police chief, and finally took a full tour of town with Chief Kavanaugh, who I believe is on this call. So Chief Kavanaugh, again, thank you. I saw parts of town in that trip that I may never see again, but I thank you, and my thanks to the chief for not trapping any animals while we were out on that trip. So much appreciated on that front. So I have some more meetings taking place this week, and as I mentioned, I have to the board, I have a previously planned vacation next week. So I will be out next week, but we'll be continuing on thereafter. And again, my appreciation and thanks to all of you for the warm welcome. So that's my update.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. In the future, I'll ask if there are any questions for Ryan, but I think maybe we'll give him a break tonight from the questions.
Right. I can barely tell you where the bathrooms are, folks. That's about all I can tell you. So
well, that was going to be my first question.
Right, that's about it.
No, that sounds to me like you've done a lot for a week and a couple of days. So I just have one comment on the chair's report. It's not really a report. It's sort of something that's a few people have asked me questions about. A meeting or two ago, we, as a board with staff, had a discussion of what we wanted or how we wanted to proceed relative to Zoom meetings. And a couple of people asked me about that. So I just wanted to review the fact that the board, upon the recommendation of the staff, has decided to take the summer to really Actually, some of the new technology has already been installed, which is great, but to take the summer to make sure that that's all installed, working properly, figuring out the logistics, making sure that we have enough staff to have hybrid meetings. So I think that I remember that we voted that we were going to continue all of our boards and committees. We're going to continue on completely on Zoom until just after Labor Day, and then we were going to reassess that, and it's our hope that we'll be ready to start with at least hybrid meetings at that point. So that was just a reminder because I've gotten a few questions about that, but and I thank the staff for being very thoughtful and understanding both the needs of the community, but also the needs of the staff and the needs of the boards relative to getting back to in-person meetings. Are there any reports, Diane or Gary? Diane?
No, I just wanted to welcome our new TA, Ryan. Thank you for the meeting today, and I wish you the best of luck. I think we'll do great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gary, did you want to give
And
a report?
likewise, just welcome to Ryan. We've met a couple of times already, so I think we're off to a good start here.
Thanks. Thank you, Gary.
Great. Okay, so that being said, we will move on to our consent agenda. There is one item on the consent agenda that we've already touched on, and that is the Wenham Museum Fair. Before I turn this to, I think, our clerk for the motion, I think Kirsten Noon is here. And perhaps we'll ask her to speak for one moment on the Wenham Museum Summer Fair and the use of the property. Kirsten, are you here? Kirsten is not here. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
There she
Sorry.
is. There she
Yeah.
is. That's okay. Sorry
Just moving to
scroll
a
through.
quieter part of my house. Bear with me. Yeah.
I feel you.
So thank you all for inviting me to speak about the museum summer fair this evening. And Ryan, welcome to town. So after you're acclimated with town hall, we'll have to have you cross the parking lot to come to the museum to see the trains and all that stuff. So, but yes, the museum would like to go forth with its annual summer fair this year. This would be the 45th annual event. Ryan mentioned in his introduction or in the announcement section that we would be having 60 vendors. That's actually not quite accurate for this year. We have about 25 to 30 people that we anticipate coming this year. We're planning a slightly reduced footprint for the event as we ramp back up from COVID. And to that end, we would still like to be able to use the town hall lawn, as has been the tradition for the event for a number of years, to put a number of our vendors and also just to help maybe put a little bit of extra room between them. When we have had the 60 to 70 vendors, the space is quite packed. And even though public health guidelines really have no concerns for outdoor events at this time, we're still proceeding just a bit more cautiously than the guidelines and want to just allow for a bit more elbow room so that hopefully the maximum number of people from the community and beyond are comfortable coming out to the fair, reconnecting in person with family and friends, and hopefully, helping to support some of our local businesses and artisans, and hopefully also visit the museum, which would be great. So,
Okay. Questions for Kristen about this? It's exciting to think. Oh, yeah, Gary.
Yeah, I just want to say that, we know that it's been a real challenging year for the nonprofits. So hope everyone comes out and enjoys the fair. Totally in favor of this.
Great.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure that a lot of people will be happy to see that happening again. It was been a couple of years, 1 year that we haven't. So that is this time part of our consent agenda. So if there are no further questions, we'll just I'll ask, I guess, Diane to make the motion on the entire consent agenda.
So I move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the open session minutes from June 1st, 2021, June 8th, 2021, June 17th, 2021, and also to approve and hold the executive session minutes from June 1, 2021, June 8th, 2021, June 17th, 2021. and also to allow for the use of town hall property for the Wenham Museum Summer Fair on July 31st, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., including setup the day before and all necessary cleanup.
Second,
Okay, great. Well, I think by the nature of it being a consent agenda, we'll just move to a vote. So Gary,
yes.
Diane,
Yes,
Catherine, yes. So unanimous on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you, Kristen, sorry. Okay, so next we have, I think, the bulk, the rest of our appointments, or most of the rest that we have appointments this year that we have people to appoint to. I'll just make one suggestion before we start. Gary will ultimately have the motion, but I think that we agreed that we would, when there were more applicants or letters of interest than there were people, someone can correct me if I've got this wrong. I think that we suggested that if there were 2 openings, we would each name 2 people and see, just as a preliminary, and see if there's consensus, and if not, work towards a consensus before we make a motion. Does that sound reasonable to everyone? If so, Gary, I'll give it to you.
All right. So for the Affordable Housing Trust, I'll list the names first, so those that don't see it. So Patricia Horan, Huntley Skinner, John Mastronzi, Amy Cooper, and Rick Woodland. So 2 slots, is that correct? For the
Correct.
2-year term. So I would suggest that the Affordable Housing Trust has done a great job in the past, and I would thank the others, but go with the incumbents as underlined.
Okay. Diane, do you have
I
two
would
choices?
also choose in this situation the 2 incumbents, because I do believe that they're working very well in that committee.
Okay. I differ a tiny bit in one position, and to be clear, it's not any intention to not appoint someone who's an incumbent, but I guess I had a hope that we could reappoint someone who Rick Woodland, who has been on the Affordable Housing Trust before. I served with him for several years. He did not ask to not be reappointed, but he wasn't. But I'm happy to see his name here again. And for those people who don't know him, I just wanted to, and I may or may not be persuasive to anyone to change their thoughts on this, but I just wanted to mention that Rick was, at the time we were putting together an affordable housing trust action plan. We were working with a consultant. It was a fairly lengthy and somewhat complicated process. And Rick was really instrumental in working with the consultant. He has a background in journalism, so anytime we needed something written, especially press releases, he helped with that. He is a real doer. He has a lot of all of us, I think, myself included. He may have more experience with affordable housing relative to Habitat for Humanity, working with the homeless and Family Promise of North Shore, and various other parts of the community. So I just wanted to put that out there, that Rick has served well on the Affordable Housing Trust, and I would be happy to see him serve another term. And along with that, to choose one of the incumbents, I would choose Huntley Skinner. So I don't know if anyone has any comment on that.
I'll just say that, yes, certainly Rick Woodland has contributed quite a bit. Have we looked forward as to vacancies next year, or what the lineup's going to be?
Well, there will always be
Yeah.
vacancies. It's probably an important year on the trust because the town will be beginning its master plan. And so I think that there's probably some benefit in this year to having someone who has had some experience with the housing production plan and the or housing needs assessment and the Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan. Again, this is not in any way, shape, or form to criticize or demean the work that the two incumbents have done. When I saw Rick's name, I looked at it as a real opportunity to get that expertise back on the trust. But
That's interesting feedback. I do appreciate that. And I knew that Rick was interested in coming back. And I appreciate the other two jumping in to be involved. I'd love everyone to be able to be involved. I did hear from the trust itself, and they were pretty confident in the members that they had now and felt that it could really move forward with that. So that's what I'm going to stick with, I think.
okay, well, Gary, it sounds like we might be ready for a motion then.
Right.
Huh?
Then the motion is move to appoint Huntley Skinner and John Mastronzi to the Affordable Housing Trust for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll move on to a vote. Diane?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
This is a hard one for me because I don't really want to vote no. And I think I'm on record as saying I wish Rick could get back on there, and I encourage him to keep trying. But given that we already have a consensus of 2, I'll just make it unanimous and vote yes as well. Okay, next on appointments.
All right,
Okay.
so it looks like on the Council on Aging Board, we have 3 for 3. So I'll go ahead and make the motion straight out.
Yeah, right.
So move to appoint Jill Romano, Trudy Reed, and Marty Lowry to the Council on Aging Board for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2024. That's a 3-year term.
Second.
Any comments or questions on that? If not, we'll move to a vote. Should we start with you again, Diane? Keep it
Yes.
that way.
Sure.
Gary?
Yes.
Catherine, yes. Okay.
So we now have 2 for 2 slots again on the HW Community Access. So the motion, move to appoint James Reynolds and Daniel Curran to the Hamilton Wenham Community Access Committee for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Questions or comments? If not, we'll change it up. But yeah, Diane?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll vote. Gary?
Yes.
Catherine, yes. If I try to change it up too much, I confuse myself. So, okay, thank you for that.
All right, next one. 1 applicant for 1 position. Move to appoint Dacia Rubel to the Hamilton Wenham Cultural Council for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Comments, questions? If not, Diane?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Catherine, yes. These are a lot easier when they're the same number of applicants as positions.
All right.
Okay.
So coming up on the Historic District Commission / Historic Commission, we have 4 with 2 incumbents here for 3 positions. How would you like to proceed?
How about we do this one the same way? We'll just do a little straw poll, and each of us will name the 3 that we think should be moved forward, and see if we come to any consensus. You want to start, Gary?
All right. So again, we have 2 incumbents on a Barbara Locke and Donald Bannon, who's an architect and contributes greatly. And For the other two, I think, as always, we appreciate the volunteerism, but I think if correctly, that one member of the household from McDonald's is already on the board. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I think just as not for personalities, but for policy, I think we should get a wide range of opinions and households. So I'll go with Kelly Schmidt as the third selection.
Okay, Diane?
I would vote for Barbara Locke, Donald Bannon, and Kelly Schmidt.
And this
The
one's
same
going to be easier than the last one. I would have chosen the same three folks for the same reasons. I also had a very nice conversation with actually Flynn and Kelly, and both seem very well qualified, but for the reasons that Gary mentioned, I'll go with Barb Locke, Don, and Kelly. So I guess we're ready for a motion on that
Right.
one.
Move to appoint Barbara Locke, Donald Bannon, and Kelly Schmidt to the Historic District Commission / Historical Commission for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
And I guess we've discussed this. So I think we're ready for a vote. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Catherine, yes. Okay. Town Government Study Committee.
Yes. So one candidate for one position, but if I may, I'll start off the discussion here and say, you know, the Town Government Study Committee was put together and started in January with the charter to make recommendations back to the select board on the 3 or 5 selectman position. I'm quite reluctant at this late date, 6 months into the process, to add another member and change the dynamics of the board at this point, of the committee at this point. So I think that my recommendation is, although Kirsten Alexander is extremely well qualified, I worked with her on the 375th committee and so forth, that I would prefer to leave this committee as is and let them fairly rapidly this fall come to a conclusion on this question. I think, you know, Diane was on it, and January we changed out, if I remember correctly. So I've 6 months gone by with many meetings, and I think it might be unfair to Kirsten to expect her to catch up with all that information. And also, as I said, I'm reluctant to change the dynamics of the board at this late date.
Diane, have thoughts on that?
So I believe it was the chair of that committee that requested that we put this out there.
Yes.
So, and I do have great respect for the chair and the committee, and I do think that Kirsten could probably do a little bit of backwards homework, read some minutes, and catch on. And I think that maybe they need an extra person.
I agree with both of you. I see, how's that? I agree with everyone. That said, I've been watching those meetings, and I do agree a lot has been done, but I think they're in for several months of data processing. And actually, since the chair did ask for this, and since Kirsten happens to have a skill and a background in something that I think they're going to need, which is marketing and communication. So it's going to be all well and good to have all these surveys done and all the data collected. But I think the next step of that before town meeting is going to be some pretty considerable communication and marketing and outreach, which is, you know, sort of Kirsten's professional background. So that being said, I think that would sway me, the fact that the chair asked and the fact that this particular person is willing to provide expertise. I see where you're coming from, Gary, but I think I need to agree with Diane on this particular situation.
All right. So
If I might interrupt
Catherine?
for a second.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Diane.
Patrick Waddell has a
Patrick,
question
yeah.
in the
Oh.
chat
Okay.
and his hand up.
Sorry,
Wondering-
Patrick. I can't always see hands. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I was hoping to be on the agenda tonight to discuss our roadmap and our timeline, one, but first I want to give my personal recommendation to Kirsten Alexander. We had a very good phone conversation. I'm familiar with her work with Hamilton's Town Hall, very familiar with town government. So I very strongly recommend that she be seated. The committee was unanimous, not on recommending Kirsten, but in filling that seat. As of right now, we are a 6 voting member committee, and we do feel that we would benefit with an odd number, so we're not deadlocked. So personally, I strongly recommend Kirsten, and the Town Government Study Committee definitely wants the seat filled. One thing I wanted to bring up, which is in the article, is that our terms expire on December 31st, 2021. And as you know, we were seated very late, and we as a group unanimously do not feel that we can do a thorough job by the end of our terms. We have a roadmap on the website, and I'll just briefly go through it here. We're gathering data right now, and we continue to gather data through the summer. When we get to the fall, that's going to be analyzing the data, writing our report in early winter to present to the select board, and give enough time that if the select board chooses not to move forward, if we are to recommend moving to 5 or putting it on the town meeting, that a citizen's petition would have enough time to take that role if necessary or if wanted. So I was hoping to be on the agenda to talk about our terms expiring 12/31. We would prefer as a group that they expire at town meeting. So that way we can continue our work, because otherwise we're really going to have to rush the process to get this report as originally planned.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. I was not aware that you wanted to be on the agenda, and there's a lot of moving parts, so sorry about that. And
that's fine.
we won't take that up tonight because it's not on the agenda, but whoever can take a note on this, please make a note that there is a request from this committee to extend the term, and we will take that up at our next meeting.
Thank you.
In the meantime, we'll
Make the
issue with,
motion then.
yes, please.
All right. Move to appoint Kirsten Alexander to the Town Government Study Committee 3 to 5 Select Board Member Subcommittee for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021.
Second.
Okay, we'll go. I think we're ready for a vote. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and Catherine, yes. Okay, thank you, Patrick, and thank you, everyone. We'll take this up, the other issue up at our next meeting. What do we have next? Wish? Yeah.
All right. So one applicant for one. So here's the motion. Move to appoint Donald Killam to the Wish Committee for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, sorry, I'm jumping the gun on you. Anybody have any comments or questions on this appointment? If not, we'll follow our process. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Catherine, yes. So congratulations, Don, and thank you. And may I just interrupt just for a second while I'm thinking about this? These folks will be obviously notified that they've received appointments, and we've got a couple more to do, but I didn't want to forget that we actually have some meetings for some of these groups coming up. So I would just encourage people that if you've been appointed this evening, I'm sure you'll be hearing from someone at Town Hall, but just be sure that you get to Town Hall before the first meeting that you're planning, or that is being held after your appointment, so that you can be sworn in, because without being sworn in, you really can't act on one of these committees. So sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to get that in there. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Zoning Board of Appeals. We have 2 staggered terms available, 2 in 1 year, and 2 applicants. So
If I may, Gary, I actually spoke to these two folks, and I won't even begin to try to pronounce Rich's last name. But it sounds like Rich would be happy to do the 2-year, and Kelly would be fine. Either would be fine with either, but Kelly would be happy with the 1 year. So if you'd like to make the motion that way, they're aware of that as a possibility.
Ready for the motion, Diane, then?
Yes, I am.
All right. Move to appoint Rich Modelazuski, I hope that's correct, to a 2-year term, and Kelly Schmidt to a 1-year term as associate members for the Zoning Board of Appeals. The 2-year term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2023, and the 1-year term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022.
Second.
And just one comment, maybe someone said this, but these are only 1 and 2-year terms because we wanted to stagger them. So they'll be rolling, you know, when the 1-year term is up, there'll be an opportunity for it to be continued. Other comments or questions on this? If not, we will go to a vote. Diane?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Catherine? Yes. Okay, so one more set of appointments.
All right. So this is the appointment of call firefighters, Christopher Timpson, Matthew Hennessy, and Milton Gautreau. And I see Chief Kavanaugh's on. Shall we let him speak for a minute, Catherine?
Sure. Take it away, Stephen.
Thank you. So these 3 gentlemen just recently finished the interim program, and they've done a lot of work over the last 3 months. They've met every Tuesday night, and my deputy chief, Dan Sullivan, who basically runs the program, he did a tremendous job with these 3, and they are ready for the next level, pending obviously their appointment and a physical from Quadrant. And then we can move them on to the fire academy. So it would be nice to have them appointed tonight as, yep. Go ahead,
Chief,
Jackie.
can I just ask one clarification?
Yeah.
Should they have been provisional, or is it just regular call firefighter?
I have it listed as probationary firefighter, but yes, provisional that's what they should be listed as.
All right.
Okay.
The motion.
Thank you.
And Chief,
And also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Gary.
no, go ahead, Catherine.
I was just going to ask relative to the motion, you said, Chief, that this was pending their physical. Should that be in the motion as well, or is that sort of inherent in the fact that they're provisional?
Yeah, that's inherent. I mean, that's
Okay.
We'll let you know if something happens.
Okay, I'm sorry, Gary.
No, I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to ask the chief, what's the status on the fire academy as the internet restrictions end here?
They just have to be appointed, and then we get them through the physical. They do a ton of paperwork before they get into the fire academy, and then they will notify us. The fire academy will notify us once they've been accepted.
All right.
And that's usually they will have their first meet and greet in middle of October, and then they start the academy the first week of November, and it ends the last week of February.
Are we ready?
I think so.
All right. Move to appoint Christopher Timpson, Matthew Hennessy, and Milton Gautreau as provisional call firefighters beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any further comments or questions on these firefighters? If not, I will take a vote. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Catherine, yes. Please
Thank you
thank
very
them for
much.
us, Chief.
Thank you.
And kudos to Jackie for the immediate change.
That threw me off a second. I thought, wait, we just said that, and then it appeared.
It's like my new party trick. It's great.
It's a good one. It's good. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is an audit committee charge review and discussion. And if I may, I'd just like to, normally I'd pass this right off, but I just like to explain a little bit about why we're seeing it this way on our agenda. The audit committee was initially on the list of items or committees to be appointed. But in discussion and looking at it, we've had a difficult time finding people who would like to sit on this committee, and in discussing it, it seemed as if it had been charged initially for some specific reasons and with some specific people in mind, and that we might as a board want to take the opportunity to look at this and see if the audit committee as it was originally charged is the way we'd like it to be, in which case we'd have to find some people to be on it, or if we would like to perhaps, and we don't have to decide this tonight, but if we would like to perhaps sort of change the way we handle our audit. So in our packet, there's a note, there's the original charge, and there's also, I think, a recommendation from Jamie about one way, I guess, that we could sort of reconfigure the work of the audit committee moving forward. So any discussion on that or thoughts on? Should we keep looking for someone, or?
After reading, unless Jamie's here, after reading the memo that she wrote, and if we can do it within the FinCom and the Finance Committee, I'm sorry, the FinCom and the Select Board, I think that's probably the easiest thing to do and most efficient.
Gary, thoughts?
Yeah, so I think that I see the audit committee as being an advisory committee to the selectmen. So I think that was probably not the best way to set it up in the past, but I would like to see 3 individual citizens on this committee. And I should hope that using the street list or whatever, that we can reach out there, because I think there are over 30 CPAs and certainly others with banking experience in the town. And that given that this is really just a couple of meeting type of load each year to hear the audit and then to turn around, make their assessment and provide input to the select board, that perhaps we can renew an effort to get some CPAs on there. The recommendation to put it into the FinCom, I think might work, but then again, I think that we've seen in the past years that the FinCom is already stretched to just address the annual budget cycle, and along with the looking at capital management and so forth, that I'm not sure the FinCom has the resources to cover this activity as well. So I think given that this gets into fairly technical and legal areas, that I should think that the town would benefit greatly from having actual CPAs or very well-versed financial people on this committee. Just 3 members and just a couple of days work. So that's my input.
Madam Chair, do you mind if I could? So
Absolutely.
Yeah, just, so when I think of this, so we talked a little, Jackie and I talked a little bit about this, and Catherine, we discussed it as well. So, with the committees, it requires a certain amount of management on our part to, of course, recruit people, bring them in, and what have you. The audit is an important part of what we do in any given year. So it's certainly an important thing, but remember too, when the audit is developed, it is developed to make it a public document as well. So oftentimes in the communities I've worked for, the auditor will come back and report back to the select board and the FinCom, maybe at a joint meeting, and provide that update. So, I mean, the question I'd ask of this, just as I would ask of any board or committee, would be to say, is there a value added that committee or board provides? Almost most of the time in the communities that I've been and I work for, have basically been able to meet that through the FinCom and the select board with this update from the auditing team, which is a common thing. So, I just, so as you said, Gary, it's true, it wouldn't be maybe a couple meetings, But at the same time, the findings from that are usually boiled down in the management letter to make it fairly clear about what sort of tweaks have to be done. So, and improvements need to be made. So, I guess the question is, and of course you've dealt with the audit committee, been in place for many years. Has it provided? I think the question the board has to ask itself is, has it provided a value added to your process? Maybe the same question would go to the FinCom. And, I think you always have to be asking yourself whether or not boards and committees that have been developed and set up over the years, are they still providing you with that value added? Is it providing the town with that value added aspect that you're looking for? So, I just, so that's just my input. I am not sold that this is entirely necessary for the town.
So if I just may add a comment, to Ryan's point, I think the value added, and to Gary's point, the value added by this audit committee, as it has been charged, is the fact that there's been a CPA who's been able to sort of take a second eye on the audit. The value that we've lost, however, and something that no matter what we decide to do here, I think we need to seriously consider, is that in my years on the FinCom and also on the select board, the auditor has always come and made a presentation to at least the select board, and oftentimes a joint select board finance committee meeting about on the audit. In the past few years, that report of the actual audit report, verbal one, has been given by just a member of this committee. And I think that's done, to Ryan's point, a little disservice to the transparency and openness of it. So how about if we, since we have a couple points of view here and we don't have to decide tonight, how about we give it another week or so as is, assuming that we're going to continue, to Gary's point, the recruiting effort. And if we can specifically find a CPA, and I don't have an issue necessarily with completing, with moving on with the audit committee. I think I would recommend a little bit of a change to the present charge, but I also think it could work. And if we don't find anyone soon, I think we should try to make it work in-house, at least for this year, until we can figure out. So if that's okay, yeah, Jackie, I actually saw
I just may set a deadline for the board, instead of you setting one for us, of if we can have this discussion again, maybe either on the 27th of July or August 3rd, because by September, they will be in the position of the audit will have been in progress with our finance department, and that the work of the audit committee really happens September, October, during our fiscal year cycle. So I would just encourage us to be mindful of that timeline, so that Jamie and her team in the finance department are not delayed, because once the audit gets delayed, it delays our filing with DOR and eventually the tax rate. So I just want to be not to think about the tax rate in July, but think about that timing, just to make sure that we're working with finance so they meet their statutory deadlines with DOR.
Yeah, and if I could just add to what Jackie said too, again, where I haven't, I'm the new person here, so if the audit committee has provided the kind of feedback and input to the finance committee and select board in the past that you found really useful, that's fine. So there's no reason why we couldn't continue on with it. It's just a question of what that experience has been like, and if we found that to be useful.
So how about, to Jackie's point, I don't think any of us really want this to go on endlessly, and also considering the timeline. How about if we continue to request and recruit letters of interest until the middle of August, say the 13th of August, which I think is a Friday, with the notion that one way or another we'll make a decision on at our first meeting in September.
I think that probably puts it kind of late in the
too late, but making the deadline, say on
end of July
30th, gives folks another 2 weeks. And then we'd have to make a decision on our meeting on the 3rd of August.
Sounds good.
That work? All right, so
That
we'll
works out.
extend the deadline. Yeah, works for you, Diane?
Yes,
So we'll extend the deadline until that's a little tight, till the 30th of August. And I guess if we, July, I'm sorry. I guess we should probably be working in parallel. In the event that we don't have someone, we should be maybe thinking a little bit more specifically about how we would handle this in-house. And we'll put it on our agenda for the first meeting in August, which I believe is August 3rd. Does that that work? Ryan, Jackie, Gary,
fine.
Diane,
Mhm.
works already?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. The next item on our agenda is a potential vote on the declaration of the fire truck as surplus. It's been our recent custom to pass these directly to the town administrator, so I will pass it to Ryan. He's free, of course, to pass that to anyone on staff who has more information or can share some information with us.
Okay, so as many of you know, we welcomed in our new pumper truck a few weeks ago. And as such, we now are able to surplus the existing 1999 fire truck, pumper truck, I should say. So really, this is just following through on that. There were some questions about why we didn't use it as a trade-in, and the reason for that is we needed to keep the existing 1999 pumper, on site until the new vehicle showed up. So the request before the select board tonight is to surplus the old piece of equipment, and I'd ask Chief Kavanaugh if he had anything else that he wanted to add, or if I may have missed anything.
Okay.
Nope, nothing to add, just a simple request to declare it a surplus so we can sell it. That's it.
Right. And the process we'd follow in doing that is following the 30B surplus process. One of the things that we may be following is an online resource called MuniBid that has got all kinds of equipment. I think I sent the link and shared that with some of the select board members earlier. So that's compliant with the 30P surplus rules, and we'll just be following that process to make sure that we maximize as much revenue as we can with the surplus of that vehicle. That's it.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments before we go to the motion? Gary?
Not here.
Okay. Diane?
not here either.
I'm all set as well. So I guess we're ready for a motion.
Right. Move to declare the 1999 pumper fire truck as surplus with funds from any sale being returned to the general fund of the town of Wenham.
Second,
Okay, I think we had our discussion. So absent any further, I will go ahead and call for a vote. Diane?
yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Catherine? Yes. So unanimous. Okay, get as much as you can for it, Chief.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good, actually. You guys have kept
Yeah.
it in good condition considering how old it is.
Mm.
Okay, next. It's a potential vote to authorize the town administrator to approve the lease for the municipal track list. I'll let Ryan explain this, if you don't mind, Ryan.
Sure. So I believe town meeting had made a determination to seek a lease for a trackless machine. So this is, I believe, replacing another piece of equipment. And with this, there are basically the request before the board is authorizing me to sign off on the 70 some odd pages of documentation required within this. It's a little bit more complicated than a purchase because there are other requirements within this. Chairperson Harrison was looking at it earlier, and it's a pretty complicated piece, but basically it allows us to move forward with the leasing company to get this piece of equipment in place. So that's the request before the select board tonight.
If I could just add a comment, because Ryan and I did talk about this a little bit. So I think for the select board, we would normally, I guess, or sometimes see a document and not choose, but if it was something that we felt appropriate, we could authorize the town administrator to sign off on that document in our place. I would, in an ideal world, like for all of us to have at least looked at the 70 pages, which is I did today. And if people are more comfortable doing that before we give away our authorization to sign here, I would certainly entertain that. I will make a comment that from what I could tell, there are just two comments I'd make. It appears to me that most of the signatures are really most of the detail is not in the signatures, and that it's required. We kind of got a little behind the 8 ball here. It appears to me that this is due, well, maybe past due by a few days, and town council, since we're the signature authority for any contract, in order to move forward with this, in order for town council to sign off on their parts, it would require either us to say that we're going to sign it and look at it and do that, or authorize Ryan to sign in the places that are essential. And that vote has to be made and documented so that KP can actually, if we authorize Ryan, KP can actually put that vote in their documentation so that it's clear to everyone what we've decided to do. Does that make sense? And does anyone have a preference on this? It's a little bit of an unusual one, as we have had so many this last few months because of the timing of it, I think. Gary, have any thoughts?
On perhaps not directly to that, but my understanding from DPW Director Bill Tyak that this trackless is the probably the most used specialized equipment they have out there. So we need to proceed forward with this. And on the financial side, that we're using a lease here, which is probably not the best policy, but reflects the overall tightness of the town budget. So I think, the expertise relies on KP Law for the documentation, on Ryan and Town Administrator and DPW for the specs. So I'm comfortable with using their expertise in authorizing signature by the TA.
Diana,
I agree with everything Gary said. Thank you.
Isn't that great, huh?
It's so easy. I can just say ditto.
Gary is very well spoken. Okay, I guess we're ready for a motion then, Gary.
All right. Move to authorize the town administrator to approve the lease for the municipal trackless equipment.
Second.
Okay, it sounds like we've had most of our discussion. I'll move to a vote. Gary?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Catherine, yes. Okay. Wow, that's the end of the page. We must be done. Oh, there's a second page to the agenda. It's only got one thing on it though. And it's an update to us on the select board and HR policies or policy revisions. Again, I'll ask Ryan to introduce that and pass it to whoever, if necessary, to whoever has the details.
I'm going to pass this along to Jackie. We were waiting for an update at the from the meeting last night, so I'll just pass this along to Jackie and let her address it.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ryan.
Jackie, in advance.
Good evening. Thank you.
Hi.
So last evening, I met with the Wenham Human Rights Committee, as the board had indicated, for the code of conduct and for the sexual harassment anti-discrimination policy. So had a really good, productive meeting with the human rights group last night. Got some really good feedback from them on both policies. So in general, I think they're very supportive of both. They really appreciated your feedback that the code of conduct be kept to 2 pages. So that was really well received by them. But we also, got into the nitty-gritty of both policies. Some good First Amendment rights brought up in the code of conduct when it comes to personal social media versus in your capacity as a board or committee member. We also talked about the do's and don'ts of open meeting law when it comes to discussing department staff or department or town employees, because that was something that is brought up in the code of conduct and is something that also has open meeting law work. So that's kind of a funny area of where these two areas meet. So we did talk a little bit about that. And then they gave me some good language feedback on the anti-harassment policy. So I've started incorporating their notes and changes into the drafts. And the intention is that I asked them that if there's anyone that wanted to work with me offline this week, that they get in touch either by phone or email or stop into town hall, but that they do so by Thursday, end of business, so that I can get these documents sent to council for the final review so that we can have them before the board. Hopefully the code of conduct would be back in front of the board by July 27th meeting. And then I was hoping to do the public hearing on the HR policies on August 3rd, but I think with the newspaper, it's going to just be cutting it close. So either at a late August or early September meeting, we'll have hopefully a public hearing. I've also been working on the HR policy front with our finance director, Jamie Colon, and our treasurer collector, Sherry LeBlanc. A few years ago, Catherine, I may have been on the board at the time, and I think Diane, you were clerk. We created a sick bank for town employees and created a sick bank policy. With the library having moved from non-union to a collective bargaining agreement and so many staffing changes over the past few years, we just want to take a refresh of that sick bank policy and make sure it's keeping up with where we need it to. So I would imagine that we will continue through July to bring policies to you for HR updates, such as the sick bank policy, so that when we have the public hearing, we're going to do maybe 3 or 4 articles at a time. And I'll be working with Jamie and Sherry as the summer goes by on other policies that they've identified through the work in their office in terms of employee management, getting all of those policies up to date so that overall we're working away, chipping away at our handbook update. So that's where we are with that project at this point.
Questions for Jackie?
Making progress. We'll get it all done soon.
Yeah. Yeah, great. We will, I think I understood, we'll get to see these one more time before our public hearing, which I think you're right, is probably going to be realistically early September.
Yeah, I think
great.
the goal would be is to forward them to you once we get them back from KP,
Mhm.
KP Law, and then pile them up for, so we're going through the newspaper advertising process the one time for
Right.
number of policies just to maximize that advertisement.
Okay, that'd be great. And a request maybe for our next meeting, pretty simple one, I think. It doesn't even really have to be a meeting item. I've lost track a little bit of which policies we've completely approved, if there are policies that we still have a little more work to do, and policies that, like these, that are sort of in process. So Jackie, if you could put together that list and get it out to us. Doesn't really have to be in a meeting, it's just information the next week or so. That would be super.
Catherine, do you mean the HR and the select board, or one or the other, or both?
Well, at the beginning of this whole process, we had a list that Gary had put together of policies that I think we all agreed were probably, and I'm thinking they were sort of a combination. So I guess based on that list, if we could get just a status of where we are on those, and then we can also take another look and make sure that everything on that list we still would like to move forward with, and if there's anything that we'd like to add, which you guys have done yourselves, so you don't need too much input from us to add, but okay. Anything else? Thank you for all your work on policies, and thanks to the Human Rights Committee for their input. Anything else on this? Yes. No. You know, Diane, you have something in your room that looks like a hand to me. So I'm sorry. I'm calling
No,
on you,
sorry.
and it's not. You're not raising your hand. It's just a
No,
picture.
yeah.
Okay. So we're done with policies, and I think our letter H is other matters as may not have been anticipated. I do not have any other matters to
Oh,
bring up tonight.
Gary does.
Gary does, yeah. What you got, Gary?
I was just, having listened in to the Conservation Commission last night, I'd ask Ryan perhaps to track that and come back to us on 3 August as a status update on the environmental problems out at Spring Hill Development. That there's, again, water runoff and silting all the way, that I guess DEP and the Salem Beverly Water Board and everyone's getting involved. So I think the select board needs to stay apprised of the situation there.
We can do that, Gary, sure.
I think Margaret may have has photos taken over the weekend that she can send to the board as well. Is that possible, Ryan?
I think we actually, I think I was actually talking to Catherine about, I'm sorry, I was talking about this today, and I think I have actually a full report that has some of those pictures, Gary, sure.
So I just want to be sure that we're not stepping on the authority of the commission, of the Conservation Commission, in the event that they have, and I don't know much about this at all, but in the event that they have any actions or planned, that they do have autonomy to do that. So any information that we're, entitled to, I think we should definitely get a report on, but I think I just would ask that we be, just be very aware that there may be some actions or some things that are going on that need to be handled by the Concom and that we may not have any jurisdiction over. So we should just, if we need to discuss those, we discuss them in the right format, just from past experience would be my only comment.
Yeah, certainly, it's for our information only, but knowing that agencies outside of the town are already involved, I think for the public ought to be aware of what's going on.
Okay, anything else for this meeting? If not, Diane?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
How
A
about,
second.
can we review the upcoming schedule?
Oh, yes,
Oh.
could we?
Better.
We could, if I could remember what it was. I think our next meeting is on July 27th. Jackie's going to correct me if I'm wrong. And I think the next one that we have scheduled is on August 3rd. And beyond that, we're going to have to, we won't know probably until August 3rd. They may have a little time off. The staff may have a little time off from meetings, not time off, but from meeting planning for a few weeks in August. But so July 27th and August 3rd. Thank you for that reminder, Gary.
All right.
So the
Okay.
motion's still out there, just needs a
Okay.
second.
Second,
Okay, we'll take a vote. Diane,
Yes.
Gary,
yes.
Catherine, yes. I will adjourn this meeting at 7:37 p.m. Thank you very much for everyone who